Lena. Okay. Will Metro. We have Hazen playing outside. We have Nick Sullivan, welcome. We have Gary and Cindy Ortego. So I'm going to start with the announcement first, and we'll have announcements later. Just a reminder, next week is a business club meeting. It's a club assembly, business club meeting, so we'll have the team leaders give reports on their committees. I'm going to bring up Valley. Do an inspiration. Yeah.
So you want,
It's on.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you all know that I have people that inspire me and probably tired of hearing me talk about Brian Stevenson, so I'm doing somebody different today. William Sloan Coffin Jr. was born in New York City in 1929. He was ordained as a Presbyterian minister in 1956 and later became a UCC minister. He was chaplain first at Williams College and then at Yale. In the early 1960s, he organized busloads of freedom riders, was an active protester of the Vietnam War, and very active in anti-war and anti-nuclear organizations. He died at age 81 in 2006 in Stratford, Vermont. He has a very interesting bio if you want to look it up. So these are quotations from him written in 2004, but I find many of them pertinent today. So the first one is, diversity may be both the hardest thing to live with and the most dangerous thing to be without. As a man, I consider myself at best a recovering chauvinist. As a white person, I am a recovering racist, and as a straight person, a recovering heterosexist. To women, African Americans, gays, and lesbians, I am deeply grateful for stretching my mind, deepening my heart, and convincing me that no human being should ever be patient with prejudice at the expense of the victim. Patrick Henry said that that dissent is the greatest form of patriotism. Coffin quotes Abraham Lincoln, quote, "To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of human beings," end quote. And the last one is, life being what it is, if we don't make a difference by trying, we'll make a difference by not trying. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. So, two people that I didn't mention as guests are no longer guests. They are members as of today. I'm going to bring up Kevin Conrad, Lori Leddick. And the third in their trio is Bonnie Lord. And
So Bonnie had her baby last Wednesday, and going to be in healthy Meadow Sky is her wonderful name. She's doing very well. So just wanted to share that, but she couldn't join us for that reason. That's a good one.
so I think this is our first business membership ever. We have some older retirees. No, this is our first. All right, so welcome. You're blazing a trail. So Kevin and Lori, you've been chosen to membership in the Rotary Club of Williston, Vermont, because you manifest the qualities of head and heart to interpret and impart the message of Rotary. We expect much from you in help and inspiration, which will help us enable to be better Rotarians. And with this hope, we most heartily offer you fellowship. Kevin and Lori, I wish to impress on you that you have been admitted not only to the Williston Rotary Club, but to a worldwide association. And by virtue of your membership in the club, you'll be welcome to any fellowship of Rotary Club in the world. The honor and privilege of Rotary membership carries with it duties and obligations. You'll be expected to attend club meetings regularly to perform your share of club service and to place your knowledge and talents at the disposal of the club in its task to carry on the principles of Rotary in the daily life of the community. The community will know and judge Rotary through your embodiment of its character and service, and we accept you as a member because we believe our principles and organizations to be safe in their keeping. I ask all members to rise and Sherry to come up. It is now my distinct pleasure, in the name of the Rotary Club Williston, I now formally admit you to membership in this club and ask that your sponsor affix to your lapel our emblem.
Oh, still need that.
All right.
What you've really been waiting for.
Yeah, it works really well. isn't it?
So if somebody would get a picture, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I think that was my job. Okay. Did you get your pen?
No.
Oh.
I don't have my name tag.
In the box over there, in the paint truck, you can keep track of it, you will be.
Right.
Did you guys find it?
Yeah.
Picture.
Part of this committee. It took a committee, it took a team. You ready?
Oh, there's.
1, 2, 3. All right. All right.
Go.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're on.
It's on.
Kevin wanted to say a couple words.
Just real quick, thank you so much for welcoming me to Williston. We've really enjoyed this. I wanted to say just that the first Rotarian I met in Vermont was David Clark. He's down in Middlebury, still a Rotarian, and he told me you need to join Rotary when I took over as the director of the Ilsley Library there. And I said, I can't join Rotary because I have kids that have to go to preschool. And then when I was in Shelburne, same thing. Laura Keenan, the director there, said, Kevin, you have to join Rotary. And I said, well, I can't join Rotary. I had another kid. So now my kids get on the bus at 7, and I had the pleasure of getting to come, and it was more than I had hoped for, to get to learn about all that you do and how much fun you have doing it. So thank you for that. And my wife Meg joined. Thank you for your support, and she's the one who told me make sure to bring happy dollars. Yeah, her Rotary is a very thing. So thanks for that advice.
Choosing Williston Rotary Club is the right choice, by the way.
So we have a bunch of announcements later. I want to get two kind of out of the way. Before we bring up Hazen. So we're almost ready for Hazen. The Thanksgiving gift cards, if you remember last week, we were a little short. We did get some money to cover it. If anybody wants to cover some of the gap that we had, so we were a couple $100 shy of giving all the families, there was 56 families, as opposed to 40 last year. Anybody wants to donate, see Andy, we're gonna get probably the cards this week, so. The other one is kind of a sad announcement, at least for some people. The board voted on that we will no longer have our breakfast at $15 on January 1st. So we did talk to Sandy. She was gonna see if there's any other option that she could come up with, but just wanted you to be aware, we will have it to the end of the year. She will be our Thanksgiving caterer, but it was time to to make that change. So.
But I don't understand. What do you mean? Is it gonna cost more or she's not gonna do it or we're not gonna have breakfast?
Have it done. It's gone.
We're not gonna have breakfast?
There is a breakfast club that consists of 4 people. Aaron, Kel, Leslie, and I wrote down the 4, Charlie. They are gonna come up with a different plan. And if their plan is something that the club wants to support, then we will go in that direction. But at least you have until January 1st to do that. So, and again, if anybody didn't recognize, we were on pace this year to lose $1,500. So it was an option. It was, from a fiduciary standpoint, we have to make that change. I'm gonna bring up Sally.
People were buying breakfast.
You can have my.
I don't think we've ever had a speaker that you got a sample of what you're gonna hear. So Hazen grew up in Williston and he went to Williston Central School and CVU High School. And as a freshman in high school, he began learning bagpiping. After high school in 2006, I wrote this down because I'll get it wrong. In 2006, he attended the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama in Glasgow, Scotland. Which, by the way, is the only place in the world you can get a degree in bagpiping. So much for my dreams of scholarship. And he received a BA in Scottish music with honors in piping in 2010. He remained in Scotland for 2 more years, traveling and piping around Europe and the British Isles. He also went to Russia and Turkey. He returned home to Williston in 2012, where he found employment with the American Meadows Company, which is now located in Shelburne. He has continued with that company as now senior manager for growth and development. He's also the assistant pipe major of the Catamount Pipe Band out of Montpelier, and he recently was awarded the first prize for grade 1 pipers in Glasgow. He currently lives in Williamstown, Vermont, with his wife, 4 wolf dogs, 3 horses, and 2 cats. Very soon, he'll come into the room.
Thanks everybody for having me today. I assume. Oh, there's a mic. Expect that. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my mother Sally gave an introduction already, so I don't have to spend time on that, but my name is Hazen. I studied Scottish music in Glasgow for many years, studying here as well. And today what I want to talk to you guys about is the classical music of Scotland. I think a lot of times when people hear Scotland, they think gaudy, bright red tartans and Braveheart and maybe bagpipes playing Scotland's Brave. And there's truth, there's sort of part truth to the traditions of those things. But I don't think many people actually know about some of the older traditions, especially of the pipes themselves. So I'm gonna keep this, have notes so I stay on track. We don't have a lot of time, and it's easy for me to take off on a tangent, and then you guys will get really bored hearing me talking about reading things like that. So we're gonna try to stick to the script. So what I just played for you was part of what's called a pibroch or mhor, which is translates to piping, literally, or the big music. And the name of that piece is called the Lament for the young Laird Dungallen. It's written in around 1753, I think is what we have set down for that tune. But before I talk about the classical music, I want to set the scene a little bit so everybody understands what I'm talking about and understands a little bit of the culture itself. So when I say Scottish classical music, I'm talking about the Gaelic tradition, the Gaelic music. In Scotland, there are a number of, and in the UK, a number of indigenous and early people there besides the Gaels. So we have the Picts, who were the EICTS. Those were the indigenous population pre-Roman in northern Scotland, way before the Gaels. And then you have in the south, you have the Britons, not Bretons, but the Britons, who are related to the Bretons from Brittany, and the Cornish and the Welsh. And they're actually, they're P-Celtic. So there's sort of two types of Celtic. Q Celtic and P Celtic. The Q is the Gaelic, but won't go too deep into that. So the Picts, the Britons were the indigenous people there. The Angles showed up in the 6th, 7th century. We had the Norse showing up in the 8th to 9th century, and the Gaels showed up in around the 6th century. And so when people say that, especially in Scotland, there's a lot of sort of, at least when I lived there many years ago, there's some misinformation of people thinking that Irish and Scottish are different, right? They're totally different. But the truth is that it's the same rooting culture, right? So it was the kingdom of Dalriada, Fergus Moore was king at that time, he moved his people north into Scotland. And so all of the Celtic tradition that we have in Scotland really originated from Ireland. And that's what, so the classical music that played through there had its roots in early Ireland and Scotland from the Gaeltacht, as it's known, which just means sort of the place where people speak Gaelic, term used for the Gaelic culture. And it's used across Ireland and Scotland. So way before the bagpipes were the center of the tradition, which didn't actually happen until like the 15th century, 16th century. We had the clarsach. That was the main center of the tradition. And I want to spend a second too talking about the bardic tradition therein as well. So there was a class of bards. They were known as the ceol. And the ceol were the sort of the elite poets during that time, during those early years, and they would have songs. They would memorize stories and poetry. They would write and continue to populate rich tradition. The very elite among the ceol were known as the awhirl, and the awhirl had to learn. They had to master 300 difficult poetic meters. They had to memorize over 350 stories to become an awhirl. They would trap themselves in like sensory deprivation, complete darkness, and practice their memorization skills, be able to learn many stories. I complain about having to learn, 20 pieces of music or 30 pieces of music, play sort of the top level of competition, but I can't imagine having to learn hundreds of stories and be able to call them off. But that's how the tradition was passed down. It's all oral. This was being written down at that time. So we have the ceol, we have the awhirl, and the awhirl also had to learn how to play the clarsach. Clarsach is the Scottish harp. So what you would see in classical music is known as a pedal harp. Those are those great big monstrosities, beautiful instruments, but they're massive. The clarsach is sort of about half of that size or a third of that size. And it's called a lever harp, in English called a lever harp. Not fully chromatic, sort of while you're playing, but there are levers on where the strings are to change the notes, which can make it chromatic. So the clarsach was the main part of the clan system of the culture, and they were sort of the keepers of the original classical music, or they created the original classical music. And that is kind of where the construction of what we have on pipes today came from. What's important to note too is that they had patrons among the clan societies. So this afforded them a living and afforded them the ability to build upon this tradition and take the time to memorize these stories and songs and to build this classical music. And so the clans, families would support the music, the poets. It was a really important part of their culture. In essence, they were sort of the keepers of culture, right? Passing down the traditions and stories. So the music that was sort of created for the clarsach, not a lot of it still survives today. It wasn't just an accompaniment instrument for the songs. They built their own sophisticated solo tradition, and the way that music was constructed is you have a theme. You start out with theme, and it might have been from an old song, or it might have been constructed for that piece of music. But a lot of the surviving piping classical music, we can trace those themes back to very, very old Gaelic songs. So they take that theme, and then they embellish upon it in variations throughout the piece. You start with a theme, then you move into a variation, which takes the theme and it sort of simplifies the theme, and it creates more rhythmic variation between those main, what we call theme moments. The construction of the theme itself too, I could go on and on about, which I won't, but there are many different types of theme, primary, secondary, tertiary, and other structures. They're actually thought that they come from sort of that they were influenced by the early verse and the poetry. Again, we're still in an oral tradition. So sometime fast forward many hundreds of years, in the 16th century, 16th and 17th century is when the piping music, when piping had its golden era. And it's not necessarily known why the pipes took over, but we can infer that because much of this music was not only sort of commemorative music, but also functional music, played for gatherings, played as laments, funerals, that the pipes took over because of the great distances, and they wanted to have played outdoors. One of the types of tune is called a gathering. Literally, that's what it is. It's a gathering piece of music. Clans would have their own gathering pieces. And so that's sort of the inferred reason why the pipes slowly, gradually took over in the center of society. What we have today, which you saw me play, is the modern Highland bagpipe, which evolved over many hundreds of years from a type of bagpipe in Ireland called the pastoral pipe. Pastoral pipe still exists today, and it is a mouth blown. There are two types. There's a bellows blown type of bagpipe where you have a bellows strapped under one arm, and that's feeding into the bag, and the other is a mouth blown. So the pastoral pipe evolved slowly into the Highland pipes in Scotland. At that time, it would have only had two drones, so that the things that are sticking up on the side here that are playing one constant note is called a drone, and the modern Highland pipe has three drones, which evolved sometime in the 17th or 18th century. And as an aside, it's very incredible. We have in Vermont, Vermont Institute of the Celtic Arts, which my friend Ian Parg runs in Marshfield, Vermont. He has a number of some of the oldest surviving pipes that are in playable condition. So he has a set of pipes by a maker named Donald McDonald. And there's only, I think, 3 or 4 surviving sets that we know of in the world, one of which is Piping Center in Glasgow, which is where I studied sort of the cultural center of piping. Ian McCart's father is Michael, who's a pipe maker here in Vermont. So it's kind of amazing we have this collection of really, really old pipes. I think those pipes came to him from a family that said, hey, I found these in my attic. And he brought them to his father, stored them. He also has a collection of music and early manuscripts, original manuscripts that competes against the library that they have in Glasgow at the Piping Center. So it's really amazing. Ian's doing great work here. He's who taught me. We have a pipe band in Montpelier run, and we're actually starting a youth band. So as a plug, if any of you know anyone who wants to learn to play the bagpipe, and especially any youth that are interested, let me know. Ian also has some loaner bagpipes, and so we're always looking for more members. Anyway, that is a good aside, I think. So talking about the pipes, talk about the evolution of the pipes in society and the actual pipe itself. We have a number of famous piping families that we sort of have learned music from, the McCrimmons, the McIntyres. All of this music during the Golden Age was still being passed down orally. And again, it's important to note, as I mentioned, like the patronage that the Feely, the bards had, that the clarsachs had, the pipers also had during this period. And this is why the culture thrived and it survived for so long, and not only survived, but was enriched throughout the years. Sadly, all of this ended after the Battle of Culloden, Jacobite uprising in 1745, when the Scots siding with King James tried to push back the English and failed, and that was the start of the decline of Gaelic society. Although some of our most powerful music, including the piece that I just played for you, is from the period. But I mention this again because patronage allowed the tradition to survive during that period when the clan system started to fall apart. Patronage went. And so then you have a period in the 19th century where there was nothing, and we lost a lot of the music, and we lost a lot of the styles that were different from what's played today were lost during the period. And I won't go into that too much because I could diverge again there. But it did survive through eventually the military and through competition, which we have today, which really keeps it going. So the classical music, what I played for you was a piece of music called was a tune called Lament, the Young Laird Dungallen. Again, like I said, it was around 1753. The Camerons, who lived on the estate of an investor, Archibald Cameron, was Laird. One of his sons was John. He was part of the Jacobite uprising, and they executed him as a traitor. He was still very young when they executed. So the piper to the Camerons at the time wrote this piece of music to commemorate that. And you can hear it in the tune. I can hear it anyway. Is what I believe through the tune. The first half of each variation of the theme conveys sort of the beauty and happiness and hope of this young Laird Dungallen. The second part, there's a certain note on the pipe called the keening note, which is like this sad. So that half of the tune evokes this memory of feeling of anger and sadness. So I started playing Urlar, the ground, and then I just skipped all the variations because if I played the entire tune for you, it would have been about 14 minutes long. So I spared you all that. Well, laughing. I actually just learned a piece of music that's 18 minutes long. And the longest piece we have is actually sort of one of the few surviving tunes that come directly from the clarsach repertoire. There's hardly any. It's called Lament for the Harp Tree. And if you play it, depending on who's playing it, it's around 26 minutes from start to finish. And that's without putting ground in between. So if you wanted, you could probably make it about 35 minutes long. So we started with the Urlar, and I played the last variation called the Crunlua variation. The Crunlua is sort of one of the most complex variations that we have on pipes. And I'll show you in a second what that is again for you. This music, this tune would have been passed down orally, like I said, during this period. Writing these tunes down didn't happen until the 19th century. They were passed with through a tradition, a type of singing called cantrock. And cantrock is much like solfege, so it's not as consistent as solfege. Each teacher kind of has their own cantrock, but that's how the music was passed down. I brought some books over there, and at the end, if people want to go and check them out. They can see them and have some of the Kent Rock there written down. Have some of this music survive. Colin Campbell made it consistent and kind of made it key and wrote down a lot of it. So we have his manuscript, and that's how a lot of it survived through that sort of fair period in the 19th century. So I'll do a little bit for you now so you can kind of get a flavor of what that's like. So the tune I just played, the first half of it, first part with Cantrock would sound Ian Nograden Yodro Dere Yoden Dre O Yoden Dro. So that's a little bit of the first part. And then we get to that second part. I'll play it. I'll sing it for you now so you can hear that keening note. I think you'll pick it out when I sing it. Ian Nograden Yodro Hebedi Antiho Hebedi Anti Godi Yoden O Yodro Dre Antiho Dre O Yoden. So that's, you can pick out, which is like that angry, sad note that's in there. So then the tune would move into the first variation, and this tune is called a shul, which just literally means to travel. And it starts its movement and becoming more rhythmic. And and so on and so forth. And then we move into what's called a tarla, which you didn't hear, or trebling. And and so these variations sort of build in complexity. And then it ends with a crunla, and then at the end we come back to the ground. So yeah, so I brought some music with me, and people can kind of look and see how it was written down. It started being written down in the 19th century. I have a copy, not original obviously, but I have a copy of the Donald McDonald manuscript, which is one of the earliest pieces where it's actually written out in modern notation. And there's many different types of tunes, but they all follow the same pattern, same themal variation pattern, whether it's a lament or a gathering or village. Some of those like the king, my king has landed in Moidart, which is commemorating King James coming into Scotland before the 45. Sounds very different from a lament. Yodro dra yodro dro mi handra o handred yodro dra yodra yodro dra again. So yeah, if anybody wants and check out some of that stuff afterwards, feel free to come say hello. And yeah, I hope I was able to impart a little bit of my knowledge of the old traditions and not just the Scott the Brave of Scottish music. So thanks for having me.
Questions for Hazen?
Sure.
Does this use a 12-tone scale like a modern scale? So when did that begin?
It uses it does in a way. The actual scale that they have is mostly a major scale, but it has a minor 7. So that's the only difference. However, most of the music is pentatonic. So the Highland bagpipe has the 12 note scale, but each of the tunes usually only has 5 of those notes within it, or 6 if you include the octave. But a lot of that is pentatonic, much like most traditional music is pentatonic.
Your mom said you became interested in the bagpipe when you were in high school. Who
Yeah.
was the teacher who inspired you?
So it was Ian McCard.
Need the microphone.
His name's Ian McCarg, and that's why I mentioned earlier, Vica from Institute of Celtic Arts. He lives in Marshfield. I very luckily ran into him. He played in a band with a friend of mine, or a teacher of mine, Ann Smith. Actually, maybe a lot of you know, so he's the teacher here at Williston. And so that's how I met him and really. Yeah.
Fascinating. Say something about how sometimes bagpipes are integrated into more I guess modern music. One band I'm thinking of is Enter the Haggis.
Yep.
If you know of them. Do they use some traditional music or is it just kind of feeding into the tunes, but with some bagpipe? I'm just curious. I really enjoy that music.
No, that's a great call out. So one of the things I didn't talk about today, I talked about mhor, which is fake music, literally. But I didn't talk about back, the small music, the little music, which is all of, or we call light music. So the jigs, the reels, the marches, strathspeys, all of that music is also traditional. Although not quite as old as some of the cantrop, the pibroch that we have, that music is definitely very traditional. And that music survives more in some ways than the ceol because it's being evolved and by modern bands and by modern compositions, where mhor is sort of more stagnant and hasn't changed a lot since then. So yeah, that's a great question. I totally glossed over that.
And thanks. Anybody, if you're going to be around, maybe we'll have some more questions afterwards. So for speaking with us, we made a donation to the Wilson School System Mentoring Program in your name. And if you would, please pick for our raffle. Did you get tickets?
I did not.
Okay.
So completely no skin in the game
So
here.
just the last 3 digits.
Last 3 digits. 914. 914.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Couple other quick announcements. If I could have a couple people to stand up, Sherry, Chris, Ellie, Elena. Yeah. Okay. These are the members who were at the fundraiser that we had this weekend. They raised about $3,300. So. Go ahead and please come back. Thank you very much. This Tuesday is Veterans Day, 9 o'clock. It's at the Williston War Memorial Park, which is between Town Hall and Annex. It's a great event. If you haven't been there, rain or shine, it'd be excellent if everybody could make it. Sally had a 9 o'clock. Sally mentioned.
So Andy, looks like Jude is not here today, but we need to.
She's on Zoom.
Okay, so Jude will get the phone to you. So this is about the senior luncheon. I have posters that need to be put up around. I honestly, sorry to say, I don't know where the Richmond Town Hall is. So if somebody.
It's in Richmond.
Takes a photo. And we take some other posters for our town hall and for other places around now. I'll leave the posters up here. But, please take them. It's December 11th. You'll hear more about it next week, if I have time. I'm gonna assign everybody something to do for the senior luncheon. As you know, it's a big deal in this town, and I want everybody to participate if you can. If you're somebody who has a job and you work, call in sick.
Just doctors excuse.
This is product. So the last announcement that's coming up is there's a leadership training conference that is being held by Rotary in St. Johnsbury this weekend, 8:30 to 2:45. Anybody who wants to join, you don't have to be on any track to be leadership here. It's just leadership training. If you want to long-term be a facilitator in Rotary, this is one of the ways to do that. Chris.
All right, morning, everybody. Hazen, that was wonderful. I've been to Scotland a few times, studied a little bit of their traditions, and one of the things I learned about, because they're pretty superstitious back in the day, do you know what Scottish people call small black cats?
The gallop is the.
Kittens. Sorry, this is my job. Anyone on the table here? Sally, okay, oh, Mark, how are you?
I have $2 for Scottish traditions. Bagpipes, really, really. And secondly, single malt
Single malt scotch. I heard that part, yeah.
Give you a baseball dollar, it's gonna be months before we have baseball again. And obviously, all for Hazen, thank you all for your support for his coming. I hope you brought, I believe you find a Hebrew. Because there's so many upbeat tunes, stress days. Yeah. Well, plus, none of you can say that you haven't heard bagpipes played well. I think people don't like bagpipe music quite often, have never heard it played well. And there's a very distinct difference. None of us like bagpipes. Anyway, thank you all.
Okay, this dollar is for Hazen. That was phenomenal. I have never heard bagpipes in person before. I don't know. This dollar, Sally's comment to her son, spoke like a true mother. And I know I've never given a baseball dollar because I've done baseball. Didn't have any skin in the game. Is that the right term? Yeah. But I was rooting Toronto, because I was hoping they would then win and decide they didn't want to go to the White House. $1 for me for traveling on the next 2 weeks to meet my new grandson.
Here.
Thank you very much for coming today. That was awesome. I'm putting all $3 out there for Ellie. Your cards are beautiful. And I'm so proud of you for coming with that. And hanging out with me.
You learn a lot about people. Of course, I am a Rotarian. I had no idea that Ellie was so talented.
I know.
And not to embarrass you, but I was blown away. That's what a bunch of really good. Yeah, and thanks for doing that.
I'm really happy to be able to be here with a wonderful newly organized phone function.
About to here.
Thanks for doing that for us. That's great. $1 for, everybody who did art and craft there. I've got new goals and some pipes. Thank you very much. And, they agree. Thanks for what you do for the club. $1 for, I'm going down to Boston, Massachusetts this weekend and visit the kids. It's my daughter Alex's birthday and it's my birthday tonight. Yeah. So, like the dollar for Asian, that's really amazing, really enjoyable, thank you. And, the 2026 Yankees are currently undefeated, so. Yankees. Our new granddaughter again down in New Jersey, so really happy for all of us that are allowed to enjoy that part of our life. Nice. The money.
So $1 for Sally's inspiration speech. I thought that was great. Thank you very much. $1 for Hazen, wonderful music and I'm playing on the $3. Oh yeah, and $1 for the craft fair fundraisers. Thank you all very much.
I do want to thank Hazen for coming and speaking to us and playing for us. Thank you very much. I also want to thank everyone that participated in supporting the trunk or treat. I think it was a success. And congratulations to the craft people. And Ellie, I think a table would be in order for a demonstration of what you do at some point.
Not to put you on the spot.
Maybe before Christmas.
I'm probably not contagious, but out of an abundance of caution, I'd be careful. First of all, $1 for Charlie. I'm happy to see you back in okay. I had a moment last week. And then I have to give you a hard time. I love the pipes and I'm Scottish by ancestry. Don't forget the Solaris in Wales, not only the pipes. So you know, 12 people in it. That's really significant.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Only. Okay. I'm dividing this $1 into 3. First of all, Hazen, thank you so much. That was delightful. I'd like to know how the first person who played the bagpipe was received. Anybody else? You can imagine coming down from the hill, playing this strange instrument. We love that. And speaking of music, if anybody is free at noon, there's going to be a wonderful concert at the Cathedral Church down in Burlington. Elizabeth Chang is playing and it's free, so I invite everyone. And my $3, now I have to remember, yes, $3 is a thank you for everybody who's donated for the gift certificates so that everybody can at least get a $40 gift certificate. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. You can pass it to our new member.
Oh, yes, here we go.
Hey there, these are my first happy dollars. So $1 for Sally, being a parent of somebody who was learning a musical instrument, where I had to leave the house the first year, whatever, to practice the violin. My kudos go to you. And $1 for my daughter who graduated in May, got her first job finally. And we just moved her down to New York City to start her new life. So.
I've been away, I'm not very well prepared, I only brought $1, so I ready to, but I think, one area that's been mentioned is our new members today, so happy that Lori and Kevin, and hopefully, as things settle down in Bonnie's life a little bit, so be able to join us online. I'm so happy to have them and the representation from the library, and just three wonderful people. Welcome.
We have a few more things on my $3. That'll be quick. Thank you to Hazen for sharing both the story and giving us the wonderful experience of hearing your music just for us. Also to the craft fair folks, what a beautiful display you had and what a wonderful fundraiser you've made that into. That's, I know Sherry's brainchild in the beginning, but the way people have added to it, it's terrific. And I was happy to bring home a few things myself. To our new members from the library, welcome, welcome. It's so exciting to have this new type of membership added, and to everyone who worked on making that happen. Thank you. I wanted to point out in last week's issue of the Observer, we had our annual giving guide. So if you want to review local nonprofits who need support, both volunteers or donations, that's a great place to review them. And our club is also featured in there. So hopefully that'll bring us some more attention. And then I want to also call out our annual Socks for Seniors drive that the Observer has done for many years, since before we had the paper. And it's so appreciated by the area nursing homes. You can drop off new cozy socks at the Williston Coffee Shop, and we have a new drop-off location as of this coming week, the Sugar Maple Veterinary Center, which is a new vet center in town.
Okay.
Thank you.
One word, Dodgers. Last week, many of you were giving me grief because you said, oh no, the Blue Jays have the momentum now. Oh no, it's all over with it. Going back to Toronto. And those last two games were just awesome. So I just have to rub it in a little bit. And then my other dollar is, you would expect nothing less from me. My other dollar is for the entire Metro family, because they're a bunch of good eggs, and I'm proud to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, what Sally had to say for the inspiration made me think of, I was watching documentaries with George Washington. And right before George Washington crossed the Delaware, he inspired the troops. And do you know what he said? No. Get in the boat. I don't write about this stuff. Master Paul.
Yeah.
With all our appreciation for Hazen and his music presentation. Hazen noted that sometimes bagpipes are used to provide a music of lament. I've been privileged to preside at a funeral memorial service where Hazen's bagpipe was a part, and it was. So thank you for sharing the incident today. Thank you. Time for one last joke. Hazen, why are snakes so musical? Because of their scales.
No.
I just tell them.
We got two people online too.
All right, let's go to, I can read their name.
Dave Erickson.
I just wanted to give a couple of happy finds. One is I've been absent for a couple of weeks and traveling in Italy, where I joined my wife in Florence. She had been there for 2 weeks studying Italian, which I give her a lot of credit. I don't think I could do it, but we had a wonderful trip in Florence, Lucca, Bologna, and ended up in Venice. And I also, sort of an aside, thank you to my parents for introducing me to opera and classical music, because in Lucca we got to see a performance of Puccini, who was born in Lucca, which is really a wonderful city. If you ever are in Italy, try to stop in Lucca. And then in Venice we saw a performance of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. So we had some wonderful musical interludes. But Venice, I'm just blown away by Venice. It's just an amazing city. But I'm happy to be back. Still adjusting with the jet lag, waking up at 4 and then 5 and Then my second happy find is for the New England Patriots, who have surprised everybody. I couldn't watch any of the games while I was gone, but I could sort of monitor them late in the day. Fortunately, their games were all at 1 o'clock, so it was a little bit easier to monitor. But happy for the resurgence of the New England Patriots. And Deb, I had one question. How did you become a Los Angeles Dodger fan? Coming from Georgia.
I lived there for
Oh, okay. All right.
12 years, 15 years we count.
You are forgiven. But just an aside, Galen Carr, who was our friend, former Red Sox scout, is the in charge of player development for the Dodgers. So obviously he's done a pretty good job out there and is doing really, really well. I would love to get him back if he was ever here for a short visit.
And John, you have to unmute yourself, however.
Sorry about that. Good morning, all. First, a happy find. I have family in town this week. Our niece is in a play over at St. Michael's. They had a wonderful place over there. Mill Girls is one that's going on right now about the long hours, low wages. The girls that worked in the textile mills over in northern Massachusetts. Phenomenal musical play there. Happy find. Deb, congratulations to the Dodgers there. They outlasted everyone and it was great. And $1 for our speaker, Hazen. Great presentation there. Love the history of music like that and great job. See you all on Tuesday. See you all there on Tuesday.
John, Marty and I are going to see the Mill Girls tomorrow night. And I don't know if their tickets still available, but they are free.
Yes, they are. They're free. Yeah. Yesterday was opening night and it was about 3/4 full. So I would imagine that you'd be able to get a seat. Phenomenal show.